RPG Escape 2020 at the Adventure Game Store and Dragon's Lair continues with. See again, I get already tongue-tied. Some people get excited when they meet, Michael Jordan. This is like me meeting MJ here. Ken Hite,
just as bald, just as Chicago.
Game designer extraordinaire, just somebody who has worked on fantastic systems. The designer of the Vampire 5th Edition system, as well as give me a rundown of some of the things. This is my job, really, right, but yeah. I'm a lazy interviewer.
Night's Black Agents, Trail of Cthulhu, Fall of Delta Green, all for Pelgrane Press, all using Robin's gumshoe system. I designed or co-designed 2 Star Trek games back-to-back for Last Unicorn and Decipher, so if you've played any of those, you've played designs I've done.
Or chances are you may have ripped off ideas that he did to shoehorn into another system
very
that you're
possibly,
running.
Very possibly, because God knows that's what I do.
Absolutely.
Lots of books, lots of systems.
Now, and this is a really, I'm really delighted because I've asked this question in terms of, this is a recurring theme today. Where do great ideas come from? But when I talk to you and I look at you, Ken, I know because you have such a vast, tremendous depth and breadth of knowledge of not only history, it's really sort of like saying your ideas come from like the Library of Alexandria and then some, right? I mean, where do your ideas come from?
I mean, either they come from the muses, like all great artists, or they just come from random banging together of facts. I just have always had one of those trick brains that can memorize facts rapidly and make connections. So I do really great on SATs. That's literally my only monetizable skill. And if you are capable of answering those little logic questions on the SAT, then your brain can say, the Challenger explosion is to pirates as vampires are to... And then, now I'm paying attention. I'm ready, right, exactly. The wreck of the Andrea Dory. Obviously, everyone knew that. But but that's the sort of thing that, I think, and we're in an era now where mashup culture is the culture.
Yes.
And it's not like originality. I mean, virtually nothing that we reverence is truly original. Shakespeare famously made up one plot in his life, the plot of the Tempest.
Newton called it standing on the shoulders of giants. Right?
And admittedly, if you're Newton, then you get to stand on people's shoulders a lot. But the kind of background that I have of being lazy with a lot of books, the kind of brain that I have that just puts these things together and sees connections, the job that I'm in, which is role-playing games, which is the most improv-y, yet the most eclectic of art forms, means that I'm in a position to have to do it over and over and over again, at least once a week for my own game group, plus on the podcast, plus in my writing.
But I feel that you are in I don't want to say a unique position, everybody says that. We're all in a unique position.
That's right.
But I feel that you're in a charmed position because not only do you have a soapbox, an opportunity, a place to do it, but you also have got great ideas, and this is where it sounds like I'm blowing sunshine in your direction, but it's.
Well, for God's sake, someone should. That's right, in Florida.
Las Vegas in the era of the mob and Howard Hughes. Right, what a great time to set an agent's campaign for a horror system.
Right.
And yet I have a feeling, and of course the whole Vietnam War, which is just a treasure trove for so many great storylines.
Yeah, like all terrible things, great stories come out of it.
But also, your things for Trail of Cthulhu, which tip their hat to the 1920s and the 1930s and are extraordinarily evocative of that era of black and white and Art Deco. But I have a feeling that you could make an adventure that took place in the administration of Benjamin Harrison kind of fun and interesting too.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, Benjamin Harrison is like right in the middle of the 1880s, so you're talking about, that's cowboy times.
Right.
So
see what
we're ready, right?
There?
But it's just a matter. I think it was Isaiah Berlin that said everyone who is a scholar, who is a thinker, is either a fox or a hedgehog. They either dig down into one topic and they get to know it really, really well and they just burrow down into it, or they just run all the fuck over the place. And I don't think Isaiah Berlin was being nice to us foxes. But that's what I do. I always just run all over the place. So I know, like I say, I've got 15 killer minutes on anything. Then you want to talk to me for an hour. Now I have to start changing the topic.
But in some ways, and that sort of, I think, speaks to this entire event today, because it's really up to the people who are the end user, the game masters, to then take that 15 minutes and do something with it.
Well, they're the ones who want to. I mean, the goal, I guess, is if I produce enough 15-minute nuggets, there will be a full campaign for somebody in all of them. And if people just pay attention, listen to the podcast, or read my stuff, they may not use everything in Day After Ragnarok or everything in Vampire, but there's going to be something that swoops past them that's going to be the thing that connects up with them. And my job as a game designer is to produce as many playable things at the table, whether that be mechanically useful or fruitful or story fruitful or setting fruitful, as I possibly can, because every game master and every player is going to approach a piece of material from a different angle. And if you are the one Benjamin Harrison stan out there and you show up and you're like, that's right, Benjamin Harrison is the cowboyest of presidents, then they've had a day, right? And they can go out and run that Werewolf, the Wild West, Washington, D.C. crossover game they've always dreamed of.
From my vantage point, it seems to me that you have one foot planted in what some people refer to nostalgically as old school role playing, a time and an era, and also moving forward to the future where we have. It's an extraordinary time for role playing. A lot of companies are investing a lot of money to bring new people in there. It's really a contest as to who's getting more new customers, the tobacco industry or role playing games. You know, and they're both spending a lot of money to get that same audience in there. What do you see happening 10, 15 years in terms of the health of the industry, in terms of the changes that we are in some ways, as television was, 10 years ago, there was a golden age of TV, great television. In some ways, we're seeing changes too. You don't see another Tony Soprano, and you're not likely to see another Tony Soprano. The age of the anti-hero is over on television. I'm not saying that that's wrong either. I'm saying that it's organic. It's all organic. Organically speaking, how is gaming doing, and how's it going to be in about 10 years from where you're sitting?
And again, because everyone builds their own story at the table, you can't say the era of the anti-hero is over, for example, or the era of the zombie, or the era of the vampire, or the era of whatever, because there's always someone for whom zombies are still A-list content.
Right.
They're not the people who have been, who are terrifyingly old like me. And by the way, what a great way of saying that. Who came on with, Romero, and we're following him through the second movies of the second and third movies of the trilogy, and then saw zombies recede and come back, and we've pretty much run zombies to ground. But there's some person out there who's like, zombies are the greatest, and they can.
And we'll have a new idea
they can take that. Well, they may have a new idea, or they may have amazing fun playing with all the old ideas because to them they're new, and that. So you can never say, because it's so customer-driven an art form. It's not like you and I can watch our own HBO or our own Disney channel or whatever. We're at the mercy of whatever pablum people want to dump down our throats. But when you're gaming, even if you're playing something I wrote, you can, rip out half of it, write on it, change it, say, well, I don't want to set it in London, I want to set it in San Francisco, I don't want to use this, I want to use that, I don't want to play it for Trail of Cthulhu, I don't want to play it for... GURPS, whatever it is, I can't stop you. I don't want to stop you because my goal is to get you to that table excited, no matter what you're excited for. And so the content is not the thing that I think, you can't predict it. I mean, you can maybe say that the content will flow with whatever else is big. So if we're assuming that in 10 years we'll be all doing enviro horror, then I suspect there will be a lot of enviro horror games just because games reflect that culture.
Right. Sure.
But
art imitating.
At the table, the biggest change, by far the biggest changes in the last 5 years have been the fact that 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons came out, was good, and is supported, and the fact that streaming blew up. And if you had asked me 5 years ago to predict the biggest change in the hobby, I would have predicted, D&D is going to be good, and it's going to be a market leader, and it's going to save our asses again, like it did in 2000. but I would not have predicted tens of millions of people will watch other people play D&D and be happy about that.
Right.
That is nothing I would have thought. I don't believe it now.
Yeah.
And I know that it's true.
Right. And speaking as somebody who streams a game once a week,
right.
It's shocking, humbling,
but that
mortifying in some ways.
But right now, that hobby, that part of our art form, does not yet engage in direct dialogue with design. A lot of it is still downstream. I make a game, you play the game. I make the next game, you play the next game. At some point, and right now we're seeing Matt Mercer. He licensed the last part of his setting to Green Ronin. Now he's writing his own, and he's kickstarting, and he's no doubt making $1 billion trillion. But now we're seeing the streamers become creatives, but it's still a creative in a very established, old school place. Now, when I look at someone like Matt Colville, who is an old school designer and is also a streamer, and he's designing stuff from the ground up as rules, he's still very old like me, and God bless him. So he's still thinking in those models, but he's thinking, what's this going to look like on stream? Am I going to be able to play this
right
and get my gigantic, well-deserved audience to follow me and buy the game book?
Right.
And that is the next person down is going to be younger than Matt, and they will not have been sitting in a room with me making up Star Trek rules. They will be the new generation, and they will be thinking, what kind of a thing can I make that is totally applicable streaming and totally applicable as a tabletop design, and how do those feed each other? And I don't know what that answer is going to be. I mean, I don't know if the answer is going to be moving towards sort of a more LARPy, visual, acty, theater geek component like they have in Denmark. I don't know if it's going to be moving towards card-based play so that the visual excitement is like poker. Or it may be a bunch of different things, everyone trying something to see what works. And maybe it won't matter what we try, because what works will be whatever Deborah Ann Wall plays next, because who doesn't want to watch Deborah Ann Wall run a game?
Right.
And so maybe it'll start being star-driven like Hollywood was in the 30s and 40s.
Right,
we don't know that.
And we see that. We see people. Well, we see the way these streams are being programmed as TV shows, as entertainment vehicles.
But again, that's because television, for the first 15, 20 years of its existence, thought it was just theater with a camera. It wasn't until the late 50s, early 60s, they started to say, oh, right, we're a whole new art form.
As a specific form.
We can do new stuff.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, to what extent will streaming and game design, game writing, remain in dialogue?
Yes.
To what extent are they going to birth some new hybrid art form?
Well, will one imitate the other? Right, exactly.
Right,
and I think that's the right.
And if you're asking me for sort of 10, 15 years down the road, and again, always assuming that we're not all, eating canned cat food.
Depending on what our ape overlords have to say about it.
But, assuming that, God willing, the creek don't rise, I think that's going to be the big changes.
And that was bad writing, by the way. We had 5 metaphors, jumbling for around.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, someone like that, each one of those metaphors. And you have the possibility then that other stuff can come in and roil the thing. For example, there could be global IP reform, and then suddenly everything, is either illegal. We can't use Cthulhu anymore because some farcical trademark system comes about, or everyone can use everything.
MySpace never saw it coming.
Right.
But I think what you're describing is a very, very healthy paradigm, and one that is taking very much into account the new technology and the way the new technology is being used. I will say personally, Ken, I hope that you're here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and a loud voice in the industry.
Absolutely. Well, the voice is going to be loud regardless, but I certainly hope to be there and to keep having the occasional person listen to it.
I'm looking forward to hearing you out in our clinics and the workshops and more to come. Ken Hite, thank you very much, sir.
Oh, thank you, man. Absolutely.
To be continued.